Hello, detectives, and welcome back to Stay Tuned for Mystery, a Nancy Drew podcast, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of Seasonal Gameplay, Nancy in Spring. So we're going to be diving into the seasonal aspects of the perfect games to play during the spring season today. So pick up some fresh flowers, light a fruity candle, and let's get into it. All right, so usually for me at least, my brain starts to shift into the spring mindset around like mid-March or so. I feel like usually St. Patrick's Day usually kind of ignites that feeling of, oh, we see green again. And we start to see life and greenery. So, with that, early spring for me usually brings fresh and new excitement, but we're still very much having, cold weather in most of North America, at least. For some of us, it's not even done snowing yet for the year. So, things aren't in bloom yet, but we've been in hibernation for so long that we need some life to look forward to. And so, for this reason, a couple of these games I'm recommending for early spring, I feel encompass that transitional period between cold and warmer days ahead. Secret of the Scarlet Hand actually does take place in April, according to the notes we see in the game, and I think this is a great transitional game to play when you maybe want hints of spring, but we're not fully quite to the point of being outside without a jacket, While there aren't a ton of seasonal aspects to this game, in particular, this game also does take place mostly indoors as well. But honestly, the whole garden aspect in the museum, I think, can give a teeny tiny little pop of spring just when you need it. Even though I think even the garden is technically indoors, but seeing a little bit of that just, I think, lush green landscape and walking through the garden with the ambiance sounds, that the garden makes during the game, I think is a very nice touch and something to put us in the mood for warmer days and lighter days ahead. I think Haunting of Castle Malloy is also a really great early spring game to play. Coincidentally, this game also does take place in the spring, but a little bit later in the season. But I do think it can serve really well for a transitional seasonal game. We do spend quite a bit of this game outdoors, and I feel like this game makes it very easy to immerse myself in kind of what I imagine spring in Ireland to feel like. I have been to Ireland, but I went during the month of September years ago, so I've never experienced Ireland in the spring personally. But anyway, the ambiance of this game outdoors it's really top notch in my opinion. It takes place at night, so it's very quiet and still, almost a little spooky. You can hear the frogs and the crows in the background. Occasionally, you can hear the wind blowing. Flowers are starting to pop up and bloom, and you can almost picture like it's warm enough where you can inhale that fresh spring oxygen, but also like that it's still cold enough out that Nancy is walking around with a jacket. you know? I especially also love the puzzle where you have to hunt for different flowers and herbs for Kyler's wedding bouquet. I think that's such a cute, like, spring-themed puzzle. And also the puzzle where you have to make a certain herb concoction in the bog hut to get rid of the bugs in that cage, and make the bug bane. So you're kind of in this hut by candlelight making an herb concoction. There's just an aspect of spring to that I can't really fully explain, but hopefully those of you who know, you just get it. Also, in being a transitional game from winter to spring, while there are outdoorsy, like floral aspects to this game, there are also some hints that kind of still resemble the warm coziness of late winter, such as in the castle, the fireplace is still going, which obviously indicates that it's still cold enough to light the fireplace in the first place. And along with that, you can escape to the warm, cozy Screaming Banshee Inn and pub, and you can do the mixing puzzle. So that, in my opinion, this game combines both like fresh, flowery, and cozy vibes. Now, in the middle of spring, so when for most of North America, it's starting to get warm outside, maybe we just need a light jacket and that's it. Flowers are blooming, vitamin D is being absorbed, moods are uplifting. A couple of games come to mind that really embody that feeling for me. I'm sure you will agree on these, as well, as these are fairly predictable. For the middle of spring, Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake and Secret of the Old Clock are, for me, they're just it. They're top tier games for that seasonal time. For one, Ghost Dogs takes place at a state park, so we're outside. More so than that, 90% of the game does take place outside, and we're really just in the middle of this like beautiful spring ambiance. Like every time we step outside, we hear the birds chirping, we see lush greenery, we have a view of Moon Lake everywhere we go. But more so than that, the activities we do in the game really just catapult me in the middle of the spring season. There's bird watching and taking pictures of birds and hunting for bait, using the motorboat to get around the lake, and really just spending most of the game walking around outside. To me, they absolutely nailed the spring atmosphere in this game, and not only the ambiance, but the soundtrack as well. I feel like the soundtrack is really just top tier in this game and also really catapults me into springtime. And all of the activities that I mentioned as well that we do in this game, it really just encapsulates the season perfectly. Secret of the Old Clock also perfectly encapsulates that mid spring feeling so well, which, again, like I said, is probably very predictable. But in this game, there's plenty of outdoor time to be had in this game. And with that, you can walk around the grounds of the Lilac Inn, seeing the lush greenery, and hearing the various birds and hawks, chirping in the game. There's also the golf mini game in this, which I think is such a fun outdoor activity, especially too for that time of the year, and as well as the challenge where, we have to go fishing at that pond, catch a certain kind of fish. I feel like those mini games really attribute to the seasonal gameplay as well. And in addition, while we don't actually eat any of the pies in this game, we sure see them though. That puzzle where we have to organize the pies and we see, all the fresh fruit pies, you can almost smell like the fruity baked goodness through the computer screen. And the final component that I really think completes the seasonal vibes is the fact that Nancy spends the game driving around in her blue roadster with the top down on just a beautiful spring day. So now we're moving into late spring. Warm days are here. It's basically almost summer. The days are longer. This might be at first a very unlikely choice. But honestly, for this time of year, I would really honestly recommend the original Secrets Can Kill. Hear me out on this one. So I know the timelines with the original and the remastered, they're a little different. The remastered takes place in, I think it's September, like in the fall for back to school season. But the original one, the 1998 one, that does take place in the spring. But more so just beyond that, I feel like this game really encapsulates that, like, kind of end of school year excitement that maybe either some of you still experience every year from being a current student, or at the very least, me included, probably remember that from being a student, like just how fun and exciting that was. I know I definitely remember those days, especially when I was a lot younger in elementary school and middle school. Activities are coming to an end, maybe big milestone, school dances like prom or, similar dances like that. Graduations are happening. We're all getting ready to kind of start summer. We've got our summer plans solidified. We know what summer camp we're going to be a camp counselor at, or what pool we're going to lifeguard at this summer. Everyone's getting excited to, for what they're going to do over the summer, all of that. And even though we don't really experience any super ambiance inducing experiences in this game, other than maybe that one scene like when you're going to leave the high school, and also when you leave the diner you can just like kind of see the palm trees through the clear door. I mean, that's pretty much it. But even though we don't have a ton of those experiences, I feel like the energy is just there. You can feel it in the conversations mostly, just the way everybody is talking about, college and like getting like the final work of the school year in, and studying for exams, like end of year exams and all that. You can just see, and you can see the signs all around the school for, prom and whatnot. It's an energy that's there, you know? And lastly, my last spring game recommendation is Trail of the Twister, which also coincidentally, this game also does take place in late spring. But I mean, the entire mystery is spring coded. I mean, the game does revolve around tornadoes for one, even though we literally, I mean, spoiler alert, we literally just see one tornado. Even though, that's a thing. But yeah, the entire mystery, it involves around chasing tornadoes. So there's that. But more so, I feel like they did a really great job of nailing down the atmosphere that I think the Midwest experiences during late spring. I plead ignorance on this one. I've never lived in the Midwest. I could be very wrong, but basically just from what I've researched and from what I, hear from people that do live in the Midwest, that does seem to be very true. It's a lot of thunderstorms and showers, but, there are also sunny days to enjoy as well. If you do live in the Midwest and, if I am wrong, please absolutely correct me. But in the game, we do spend also spend a lot of time outside too. But I really do love the fact that the weather changes every day in this game. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of Warnings at Waverly Academy, how we see the progression of the snowfall, like I talked about in my winter episode. Or was it the fall? I think it was the late fall, or it was fall because it was late fall, early winter, I think. Anyway, it was either I know it was in the transitional fall to winter category, so it ended up either in the fall or winter episode. I can't exactly remember. But anyway, we see the progression of the snowfall throughout the game. I honestly wish they kind of did that in more of the games. Like we're kind of like the weather. I know there's a lot of work, that goes into it, so I understand why, developers would choose not to do that every time, but I do just think it's such a cool feature that they have that, especially in a game that takes place in Oklahoma. I feel like it really embodies like the true weather of Oklahoma in real life. Like especially during tornado season. Some days it's raining, some days it's pouring and hailing, and, the next second when you walk outside, it's sunny, and plenty of clouds in the sky. So I do love that aspect of the game a lot. And I feel like, too, the fact that the weather changes so much in this game, it really does catapult me into the spring feeling. And also, this is so minor, but the little part in the game where we're at the farmhouse and we can zoom in on the tire swing, we can't swing on it or anything, but Nancy can push it. You can push it as many times as you want in this game. I don't know, I just feel like that's such a teeny tiny little minor fun thing that kind of just adds to the enjoyment of the game. We also get to see prairie dogs in this game. And of course, the mini game of taking the cloud pictures, I think, is a really great spring ambiance component as well. And that, detectives, is my full Nancy in spring analysis. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know what you think. And I hope you tune in next time for the final episode of season 2, Nancy in summer. As a reminder, if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate the show if you're listening on Spotify, or give it a thumbs up if you're listening on YouTube. And either way, you can find me at Stay Tuned for Mystery on YouTube and Twitch as well for more Nancy Drew and other gaming content and streams, etc. Thank you so much for listening, detectives, and I will chat with you soon. Stay tuned.